are going to come in as we go along, but we can go ahead and begin introductions. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know that this week in particular is going to be an interesting week for everybody, no matter where you are, but we really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us tonight. My name is Nick Radmer. I am one of the admission counselors here at the Office of Admission at Denison University, and I'm joined by my colleague, Olivia Ireland.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight. We really appreciate it. And we certainly wish we were on campus with you in Granville, but are really excited to talk to you a little bit and have an amazing set of panelists to really hone in on their experiences. As Nick mentioned, my name's Olivia. I'm one of the admission counselors. I also graduated in the class of 2017. So Nick and I are both young alums, but we're going to do our best from the admission officer perspective to keep our mouths shut and really have the panelists just share their own Denison experiences. So I'm going to pass it to Kelsey. You're the first on my screen. And then if you just want to have someone else introduce themselves after you, that'd be great.
Great. Hi, my name is Kelsey Schwimmer. I'm from New Jersey. I went to Denison class of 2018. And I am currently a kindergarten teacher here in New Jersey. Brendan, would you like to go?
Yeah, so hi everybody, my name is Brendan Boyle. I'm originally from Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. I'm Denison class of 2020, so it's been only 6 months since I left Granville, so still fresh in my mind, and I am currently working as a business development analyst for Unilever, so a big consumer goods company that owns Hellmann's Mayonnaise, Degree Deodorant, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and Dove soap, just to name a few. And I'll pass it on to Maggie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maggie O'Neill D. I am also a graduate of 2020. And right now I am just about halfway through my first year of medical school at Boston University School of Medicine. And then Haley, last but not least.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. We can't see you, but nice to see you anyway in this virtual world. My name is Haley Jones. I'm a graduate of 2017, and I studied communication and Spanish while at Denison, and I currently live in Seattle, Washington, and I work at Amazon as a program manager.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. And I should have mentioned at the beginning, I know Olivia briefly mentioned it, I too am a Denison alum. I'm from the class of 2018, and I double majored in English and theater. But we're very excited for all of you to join us tonight. Just a couple quick housekeeping things before we get started. We want to take about 30 to 40 minutes or so to go through a series of questions that we've prepared for our panelists about where they are, what they're doing, how Denison prepared them, things like that. But we also do want to hear from you. So we do want to devote about 20 minutes at the end of the presentation for questions that you as the audience may have. So we do have a Q&A feature here in Zoom. If at any point throughout the presentation you have any questions that come up, feel free to just pop it right in the Q&A, and then we'll do our best to get to those at the end. We may not get to everything, but if we don't get to something, we'll do our best to follow up with you to make sure that we answer your questions. So without further ado, we can just jump right in. And people kind of touched on where they are and what they're doing. So I kind of want to begin by asking the panel at large, if you could just tell us a little bit more about your own college search and what ultimately made you choose Denison.
I'll jump in. I'm doing it. So my college search was, I would say, pretty fun. It was, of course, in depth is what I'll say, as it is for a lot of us. And, it's a long lead process over, over a year really of preparation. So I think what was exciting to me about Denison was my opportunity to visit campus as a senior in high school. At that point, it was around this time in the fall, and it was actually one of my first real in-depth exposures with Denison, and I was able to kind of experience things that I was really particularly curious about, like the community, what it was like to have a residential college, and then also just wanting to sit in the classrooms were things I was really curious about. And also just talking to students, kind of like we are now, except this is a webinar. I just wanted to hear from them about like what their experience was like. And I think being able to experience that in real time made me feel really confident that Denison was a place that I wanted to go to school, primarily because when I heard from other students, I could hear from them how the residential experience enriched what they were learning in the classroom and also just the community that they had. And that was something that was really important to me. Leaving home for the first time was making sure that not only was I going somewhere that I, wanted to go academically, but also a place that I felt at home. And I think I definitely felt that way at Denison. And I actually just saw a Denison alum as well named Nikki on Sunday. And we were talking about like how comfortable we felt at Denison and like just how helpful that was now looking back after being like an adult now, in the adult world. And what I miss about Denison really is the community. And I think that really is why I chose it.
I think to chime in, I think community is a big reason why I also, looked at and ultimately ended up at Denison. But to go even farther back to when I was a junior in high school, which feels like ages ago, I knew that I wanted the small liberal arts experience. And kind of a couple of things really led to that decision was one, I really wanted a small class size, one where I could really kind of be, a big fish in a small pond and really get involved in classroom discussions, get to know my peers really well, and also get to know my professors really well. The second thing was really just kind of going and exploring somewhere outside of my comfort zone. And I think being out in Ohio, coming from the East Coast, there's a lot of strong liberal arts colleges out in my neck of the woods by Philadelphia. And so some of the other colleges that I was looking at was Franklin and Marshall and Dickinson. Were on my short list with Denison. And so really stretching out to go to Ohio, which I had no idea also had such a great breadth of, small liberal arts colleges. And which really led to my third, big reason, or one of the big reasons why I went to Denison was, although, you're in Granville, Ohio, right outside of Columbus, you're going to get a really regionally diverse group of students it's not just going to be kids from the Midwest or from Ohio. Some of my best friends were from Wisconsin, Florida, California, Texas, Boston, and Columbus as well. So where I really didn't get to see that at many other schools really drove me to attend Denison. And then the second and the last thing was I just felt that the opportunities past Denison really stretched beyond Ohio and obviously beyond the Midwest as well. I mean, if you look at where we are now, we're kind of all over the place from a career perspective. And I really got that when I was touring Denison, right? And I really, if I wanted to go and work somewhere, whether it was LA or Seattle or Miami, right? I really had opportunities through the Denison Alumni Network and other job opportunities that Denison was going to prepare me for, to go virtually wherever I wanted to once I graduated after my 4 years.
I would add on to Brendan and what he was saying I was definitely looking for a small liberal arts college as well, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So my college counselor in high school recommended Denison and a couple others in Ohio. And what I remember really loving about Denison was not just the location, because it was beautiful, but also how they use their general education requirements to kind of push students to take classes that they wouldn't necessarily already. So I think there's a power and justice general ed requirement, right? And I remember hearing that for the first time and just being really interested in that. And I hadn't heard that at many other schools. And I really liked that that's something that Denison was thinking about and wanted students to be thinking about too. So I knew that one thing I really liked about Denison was that I knew it would push me to take classes that I wouldn't otherwise have necessarily picked, which really helped me in choosing my major.
I won't belabor anybody else's points because I think all of those are reasons why I went to Denison. But I will say that I was the second person from my high school to ever go to Denison. And the first was my brother. So not very many people from anybody I knew had gone to Denison. He was actually in Olivia's class. And I think it's just a testament to how great the experience is that we are not the only set of siblings at Denison. There are so many. And so I think that that's just another great example of how the community really continues and how people just love their experience.
Thanks. Kelsey, you kind of mentioned this in your response, but I am curious just for the whole group, how did you select your major? I know it was a while ago when you were going through that process, but I'm curious how you landed where you ended up landing.
I can start. Yeah. So My mom is a 5th grade teacher, and I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went into college, but I did know that I did not want to be a teacher. Um, but then, my sophomore year, I figured I owed it to myself. I owed it to my mom to take an education class, and I loved it. And then I took the next one, and I loved that one too. So I kept going. So I was an education major. And then one of the requirements for the educational studies major is to take psychology, your intro level psychology class. So I took that. And it wasn't something I was expecting to like either, because I hadn't necessarily been so into science in high school. But it was a mix of the professor and the material and the class really that got me really excited about psychology. So I ended up double majoring in education and psych, which of course led to me being a teacher now. But it was definitely an unexpected route to find those majors.
It's funny actually, my major choice actually started when I was a senior in high school. And so another one of the reasons why I came to Denison was I saw that they had actually made an incredible investment into the academic opportunities starting in 2016, which would have been my senior year of high school, and that they actually developed, and Nick and Olivia, you can quote me, but 6 new academic programs which would have been the beginning of my first year in 2016. And one of them was the global commerce major. And so I saw that Denison was evolving its curriculum for the 21st century. And, global commerce being one of the programs that they developed, that's really kind of a culmination of a strong liberal arts degree mixed in with some business acumen, right? And so they actually had a twofold major where you're going to learn, very kind of basic business techniques with a strong grip on liberal arts, academic liberal arts courses that you're going to take across a lot of different departments. And so that's, when I actually decided that I wanted to come to Denison and be a global commerce major. And the second major that I had was actually a French major. And so I had spent some time internationally as a kid, my dad moved around when we lived in Paris. And so I knew I wanted to continue my French background and ultimately, hopefully, work abroad some point in my career. So that's what kind of led me to become a global commerce major in addition to a French major.
So my major journey isn't exactly that exciting. Was a BS in biology, so I'm in medical school now, so that kind of, adds up. But I think what really fortified like wanting to do a biology major and not something else was my advisor. So on my first week during orientation week, I got to have lunch with my advisor, Dr. Liebel, the best teacher ever. And I just, fell in love with his passion for teaching and his passion for biology. And I just knew it was such a great department. So I think the faculty is what really drew me to that department.
So I first became aware of Denison on my own terms through the Reynolds Young Writers Workshop, which is a workshop that occurs every summer as like a residential program. I believe, and I'd have to confirm with Olivia and Nick, but perhaps virtual this year, if I had to guess. But typically it's in person, but I'm sure they did an amazing job virtually because they're awesome. So that's how I got involved with Denison as a student. And my dad actually is an alum and graduated in 1984, or was it 86? One of the two. Sorry, Dad. He just kind of encouraged me to check it out because I loved creative writing in high school. And as a part of my college journey and getting to know different universities, it was really helpful for me to engage with their programs for high school students or prospective students. And just through that program, I met my future advisor, Dr. Dennis Reed, and was just super encouraged and excited about the creative writing program. And took that class freshman year along with some others and found that communication helped me incorporate both the writing that I wanted to focus on from a humanities standpoint, but also some of the more like critical analysis from a social science perspective. And then in addition, I loved Spanish coming into Denison, and that was something I knew I wanted to continue. And so I actually ended up double majoring by chance. Well, actually not by chance, with some intention and a really great guidance from my advisor, Dr. Amanda Gunn, who encouraged me for years after really loving the Spanish department and doing well, she was like, I don't understand why you're not double majoring. And she was totally right. And I really appreciated that I had the guidance from someone who could encourage me. And I think that's something that I loved about Denison, is that there was guidance from my professors who saw my potential and saw my work and helped guide me towards something that ended up being something that I loved. And I'm really glad that I majored in both.
Wonderful. Thank you all. And we've been talking a lot so far about, the academic side of things, but we do also want to spend a little bit of time talking about the co-curriculars and your life outside of the classroom. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of the things that you were involved with on campus, the ones that were most impactful for you, and, maybe how they've sort of informed what you're doing now as a graduate.
So I can start, but I'm sure it'll be a hefty list from everyone, but I really got involved a lot, and I really try to maximize my time in those co-curriculars at Denison because there are so many to take advantage of. And so in my spare time, outside of studying and going to class, I was a member of the varsity football team. I was part of the admissions team as a tour guide, and then as a senior interviewer. I was a teacher's assistant for the French department, a tutor. I got to study abroad. That's kind of my short list. I can't remember if there's anything else, but so, I really got to take advantage of what Denison had to offer. And honestly, it's hard to kind of pinpoint which one of my extracurricular activities really impacted me, outside, as now a graduate. But I have to say, probably, being a teacher's assistant, I think I loved, the most, because at that point I became a teacher's assistant as an upperclassman at Denison. And so it really kept me engaged with the younger generations and the younger students, while also kind of becoming a mentor. And so I think which I loved is that I got to kind of keep in touch with what the younger students were doing, right? How they were learning, or just, what their Denison experience was and how it differed, or it was similar to what mine was just a couple years before. But also, as I was helping them with, French vocabulary and pronunciation, all that stuff, I really helped. I felt like I helped guide, their academic decisions, or even their own extracurricular decisions, right? Because I was not just a teacher's assistant to them, but I was a peer, right? Where they could ask me questions about what's going on in their day-to-day life, or what opportunities that they wish I could have taken advantage of, and seeking advice there. So that's probably something that I know I've already, utilized in my workday, but stuff that I know that I'll cherish, for years to come, past my 4 years at Denison.
Me and Brendan were in the same class. We're also involved in very similar things, but I was also a tour guide and then senior interviewer. I was a TA for the biology department, a tutor. I worked for student development as a researcher. I did research in the biology department, was in a sorority. So, I was involved very widespreadly. And so to be a bit different from Brendan, I think one of a really great skill I learned was through my work in the admissions department. And it really helped me as I navigated the next admissions process of med school, really learning how to do an interview, how to speak, how to think on the fly. And I think it really gave me strong communication skills. So I think that was a very impactful involvement.
I'll jump in. Echoing both Brendan and Maggie, it's really, I think, evident after you'll hear from all of us. And we're we're 4 people, but I would say representative of doing so many things on campus. And I think that's characteristic of the Denison student. I loved being involved at Denison. I think that's definitely helped me in my career now that I'm a postgraduate person. The key areas that I was really passionate and involved were Denison Campus Governance Association as our campus vice president, as well as through that chairing our committees for residential life, and then participating in other student life committees. I was a part of our National Pan-Hellenic Council as the president, and also just as a member, which was really informative, as well as just some academic support, such as like being a tutor and being in some of the honor societies for communications in Spanish. I think, yeah, overall, I would encourage, not to mention my favorite, well, not my favorite, but part of why I'm here today, which is also admissions. I was a tour guide, which I can say I never fell backwards, but I almost did. And I was also a really happy student interviewer because of doing things like this. Actually was really awesome to be able to participate as a part of admissions. And I think that even kind of fortified my experience as a Denison student, just being able to talk about the things that were impactful then and still now. And I would say overall, Denison helped me flourish in leadership and like find opportunities to like get engaged, to have new ideas. I worked with Kelsey on something called Story Slam, and that was just like a student initiative to tell stories about our experiences. And I think Denison like was a place that empowered me to like talk to people who were different from me, to figure out how I could work together with them to do cool stuff. And that really helped me as a young professional feel confident in the workplace.
For me, I was involved in admissions as well. I was a reading tutor at a local elementary school and a research assistant. But I think two of the most impactful extracurricular involvements that I did at Denison were being a member of the Leadership Fellows, which was a group of students who ran leadership programming on campus. So running programs and all sorts of things designed at helping students figuring out how they want to make an impact on campus or what they want to do moving forward. And that was really important for me in my own leadership development and figuring out how to be confident in myself and my own voice, how to make things happen like events and plan things and work with lots of different people and communicate with lots of different people, which has been really important for me with teaching and working with both students and peers and administration. So that was a really fantastic experience. And I also had the opportunity at Denison to actually create a new organization. So while I was there, I noticed that there weren't a lot of conversations happening around sexual health on campus, which was something that I thought should be happening on a college campus, and felt like a kind of a gap in what we had available in terms of extracurriculars or even just activities or information being spread on campus. So I actually founded an organization called Denison Advocates for Sexual Health, or DASH. And through that, I was able to do lots of different programming through our Campus Leadership and Involvement Center, through our health center, and kind of spread information and give students a place to get information, ask questions, and to make sure that everyone kind of knew where to go to and to kind of fill that gap that I had seen. So that was a really great part of my time at Denison, not just in being a part of that organization, but also figuring out how to create something and kind of build it from the ground up was such a great experience for me. And this helped me to this day while I'm teaching, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. I think Haley said it so well that this is kind of just the Denison way. I think so many students are probably over involved, but it really is amazing just the level of impact that you can have on Denison's campus. And I think one of the really neat things is like Haley was the vice president her sophomore year. And that's something that you hear a lot of too, is people have really significant leadership roles as early as their first year, second semester, or sophomore year, and are really able to make these changes. And you all were so humble in all of your accomplishments, because I know you all did so much. So kind of reflecting back on your experience, I'm curious just to hear if there's anything that you would have done differently in your own personal experience, anything you'd go back and change.
So I it's funny, I was just talking to someone about this, but I have one thing I would love to change, and it actually goes back to one of the general elective courses that I took at Denison, and it was a acting realism 101 course for non-majors, and it was with Dr. Eleni Papaleonardos. So for any of you who will end up at Denison and are looking for a GE, she is probably one of my favorite professors and also one of my favorite classes I ever took. But I've never acted before. I've never done, anything of that sort. And we went through a whole semester of acting, the very basics, doing a monologue, doing a dual scene, stuff like that. And she actually invited all 16 members of our class to audition for the spring play next semester. And unfortunately, I was going abroad during that next semester, and I didn't get the chance. And obviously with my other extracurriculars I was involved in, I never really got the opportunity to audition and obviously not make the play. But that's like my one personal regret, is that I wish I would have just auditioned. Even if I didn't even get a part, I think I would have loved to take kind of what I applied in the classroom as a class that I never thought of taking, before I arrived at Denison, and to be able to, one, get the opportunity from a professor that saw potential in me, right, after just taking 16 weeks worth of course material, to engage into a performance that some people take years and years and years to develop. So I think that just kind of is a testament of the trust and the education that you're going to get at Denison, and just kind of how much fun it can be, right? I never thought I would have that much fun in acting class, but it ended up changing over the 16 weeks.
Feel like this is so cheesy, but I just feel like I wish I had taken advantage of the career center earlier. I feel like they always say that. I even had an older brother who told me the exact same thing, and you still just never listen to them, even though it's exactly what you should do. Obviously, all ends well. I'm very happy where I am now, but I could have saved myself a little stress later on if I had taken advantage of it, maybe like sophomore year.
I think also one thing that I would have done differently too was actually not do as many things as I did. I think at Denison, there's often, you're surrounded by people who are doing a lot of really impressive, really cool things, and it's really easy to say yes to maybe too many things. So I think if I could go back and do something different, I would have focused in more on a couple of things that I really wanted to focus on, or that meant the most to me, and to really give my all to that, because I think it can get a little, it can be easy to spread yourself a little too thin. Yeah.
I would echo that. That's really wise. And then I would also say I would have more like constructive fun. And by constructive fun, I just mean like, you know, yeah, you can be involved and that's awesome, but also it's really awesome to hang out with your roommates and like have late night pizza with them and like be free to be able to go to the events that are happening on campus. Like there's so much fun stuff going on. You have your friends in the play, in the spring play. You've got Dash has a story slam, like the pre-med students are presenting posters. Like there's always something going on, and like you want to be available to support your friends because they will support you too. And then also there's just, again, really fun stuff on campus. So I would have made a little bit more time to do activities that were co-curricular, but also make time to do you know what I mean, unplanned fun things with my friends.
Haley, I think I'm going to start using the phrase constructive fun in my meetings with families. That's really great. So I do want to talk a little bit more about, how Denison prepared you specifically, I guess, for your first career or your first job, or in the case of Maggie, an actual professional graduate program. So if you could just talk a little bit more, that would be wonderful.
Since you called me out, I'll start first. The first year of medical school is described as drinking water out of a fire hose. So the rate of information we are getting is wild, honestly, when I think about it, or when I take a second to think about it, I'm blown away. And I think all medical students starting school really struggle just with figuring out the modalities that work best for them for learning, and realizing that it's not exactly what you did in undergrad. And so I think what Denison really did to prepare me was it made me flexible, and it made me a critical thinker in realizing what doesn't work, being open to trying new things, and having had so many diverse experiences of education, having like a little step up of, oh, I saw that work for somebody else, or oh, I did this in that one class. And by using all of those tools, I think it helped make the transition a lot easier than some of my other peers. So that has been very helpful.
I would definitely agree with that my time at Denison helped me figure out how to be more flexible and patient, and kind of figure out how to do things quickly. After I graduated, I actually went to grad school. I have my master's from the University of Pennsylvania and my teaching certificate. And then this is my second year now teaching. So even just from an education standpoint, Denison as a liberal arts institution helped me before I even went to grad school for education. I already went in knowing what kind of a teacher I wanted to be, what my educational philosophy would be, all of that kind of stuff that like kind of grounded me and helped me figure out how then I would implement what grad school would teach me with specific practices. And that was because of the relationships I had built with my professors and the strength of the program and of my advisors at Denison. But then I would also say Denison taught me how to have confidence in myself, in my voice, and also how to speak up for myself and for others, which has been so important as a teacher now in being able to advocate for my students. And be able to make sure that I'm giving them what they need and being patient, like we said, and flexible, and really making sure that I'm being the best teacher for them. And that all of those skills, I feel like Denison has really been where I got that from and where I was able to practice that before really putting them to use here.
So I have two responses to that. First is that going into it, the courses and my involvement really helped me, like everyone said, think creatively, right? I am in a training program with business students from Cornell, Clemson, SMU, Ohio State, University of Florida, all these big time business programs. And I feel like I'm already standing out from the fact that I can think on my feet. I can look at things differently, right? My role right now is very numerically driven, right? So it's a lot of copy paste, redoing different philosophies and strategies. But if a problem arises, I'm able to kind of look at it from outside, looking in and change and really being able to kind of dissect where the problem is and solve it. Whereas I think some of my colleagues are so kind of routine based that once something goes wrong, they're not really able to, first of all, find the problem and go back to other resources in order to solve that problem. So that's not a knock on other universities, but that's just where I feel like Denison helped me out, is that critical thinking. The second thing that I can give a lot of my, accomplishments in my first role is the Knowlton Center. First of all, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Hank Malin, who is the director of the Knowlton Center. Spending 29 years at General Mills in HR, he knows, right, how to get people into positions, right? His whole role was personal development, right, at a major, Fortune 500 company. So having him as our leader, right, that's going to help students, like me, who are looking to get into a business position, or even like Kelsey trying to get in a teaching role, or Maggie, right, who's going to be, a doctor at some time, right? He knows so much about various industries, right, throughout his experience. So that's my first thing, is he is a great contact to reach out to. And like Maggie said earlier, get in there early and often, because they have a ton of different resources. And what the Knowlton Center has also done really, really well is that where, recruiters may not come, to Denison because we're such a small school, he does a great job at engaging alumni and engaging different, professionals to inform Denison students about the opportunities there. I mean, I feel like over the course of my 4 years, it may not have been a Denison alumni, but it was a contact that the Knowlton Center had made that, I got me exposure to the financial sector, right? That got me exposure to different, to the CPG world, right? I know there was always like a Teach for America, rep that always came to Denison, right? And so I think the opportunities and how kind of Denison and the Knowlton Center is really able to advocate for its students, right, and really provide opportunities in very different ways, really goes to show that Denison is going to help you find an opportunity wherever you want to go, right? And it may not be that you have 100 recruiters coming in on a Friday, for a career fair, right? But they're going to try to find those opportunities as best they possibly can. So those are really my two things that I can thank Denison for.
Okay, I'll come in last. Part of how I prepared while at Denison to move me into this space that was particularly helpful was working with the Knowlton Center, starting in early years to kind of just understand how best to communicate and talk about my experience as a student with a professional audience. And I found that the one-on-one support there helped guide me in that process and also develop my own voice over the 4 years as I grew as a student and with my own professional experiences in the summers away from Denison during the academic year. Particularly, two things that were particularly helpful that I would advise of a student either at Denison, hopefully, or elsewhere, would be one, like as others have mentioned, mentorship. I found that my professors and also like staff who worked in our Center for Women and Gender Action, for example, or our Multicultural Center, just resources that were particularly grounding for me as a student that helped me clarify my own identity, my experiences, and also what I was looking for in my life after Denison. And so I would say one, mentorship in all of those forms from all of those folks in all of the ways, because all of those perspectives really help. And then two, the Knowlton Center was really like transformational for me myself. I found internships through Knowlton, and then also my current position, I interned with Amazon as a Denison student and found out about that opportunity through Knowlton and also folks in that office. And then, yeah, so I think it's just helpful to stay connected because generally speaking, they kind of helped prepare me, whether I was to go to Amazon or really anywhere with the entire process. And it kind of helped take the stress off of me to feel like I needed to know everything about how to get a job after graduating from college. It was like, nope, we're going to help coach you on every single step and we'll help guide you and like review your materials and prep you. And you're not going to be in this by yourself. And I would say those are things that you could definitely find at Denison with the Knowlton Center, but also anywhere that you go.
Thanks. That was great. I am curious. We talk about community all the time at Denison, the relationships that you make. And I'm just curious how the Denison community has continued now that you're a few years, 2 years, 6 months out of college. How has that community just continued to impact your personal life?
I'll go for it. Community has been transformational in my experience. While at Denison, it was really one of the main things that drew me to attend was just like the way that I felt when I left campus and just the community that I felt I was embraced in. And I see someone asked if I'm from Seattle. I live in Seattle now, and I went to high school in Portland, Oregon. And I do know alumni in the Pacific Northwest. I actually have gone to Denison Everywhere events here. I've actually met with Denisonians at my place of employment. When I first moved here, I connected with them for coffee. Another Denison intern also worked in my department, Mackenzie Ritter, also class of 2017. And so I was able, through even just those few folks, really start to develop my Denison network. Craig Berman also was a person who hired me. Their son also is a Denison alum. And so just that alone really helped me feel grounded after leaving Denison. So it's kind of like the best of both, like community while you're there, and then this amazing community when you leave that, like, I will always connect with anyone from Denison ever, forever and always. And I think that is definitely the same vibe. And I love that about Denison. It's definitely what makes us very unique, I will say.
To piggyback off of that, it's funny. I was just driving into my local Walmart, and I was driving behind a sticker or a car with a Denison sticker on it, and it took every inch of me not to get out of the car, jump up to that person's window, and be like, "Hi, I saw your Denison sticker. Like, tell me about yourself," right? So, and one of the things that I'll never forget either is actually hearing that, analogy, so to say, about Denison alumni is that I forget if I was on a tour or actually even I went to a recruiting event for admissions, in Philadelphia, and I talked to some alumni, and they were talking about how, when you're walking down the street in your neighborhood or in your town or whatever, and all of a sudden you see a Denison flag, right, or a Denison, symbol that shows up on someone's lawn, that 9 times out of 10, that person who went to Denison is going to go up to their door and be like, "Hi, I'm also a Denison alumni. Tell me about yourself," right? What year did you graduate? All that stuff. And I think that goes to show about the community that you're going to take part in over the next 4 years, right? It's not always going to be hunky-dory and great, right? But you're going to build strong bonds with the peers around you, right? And you're going to push each other inside and outside of the classrooms on your views, on your mindset, and you're going to listen. And I think that's one of the best things about Denison, is that you have a true community where everyone is respected, right? And I feel like at every point in the 4 years, I felt like I was heard, and I felt like I could express myself confidently, and that people would listen, right? And they may not agree with me, but they're going to listen. And I think that's, my experience there. My second experience is that, I've also been able to get engaged with, current students that are there, right? So they have, when I left, I was like, "Hey, please reach out to me with anything," right? And even now, I've had, over the last week, 3 Denison students that are going to be interviewing me about what my job is during COVID, right? Because they have a project that they have to do for a comm class that they're working on or something like that, right? So I think that goes to show that, even if you're a couple years older, right, they're not afraid to reach out and ask for what's going on, right? And that just goes beyond just kind of the aspect that you're really building a strong community while you're at Denison, that it, again, extends beyond the 4 years while you're in Granville.
Adding on to that, with the community at Denison, I think it's something that is so special and that you can feel so much when you're on the hill at Denison, but certainly extends beyond it as well. Some of my best friends are the ones I made at Denison. But I would also say that one of the opportunities I got at Denison was, after I graduated, I was actually able to serve as Denison's recent student trustee on the board of trustees for Denison, which was such an amazing opportunity. I got to meet and go to the meetings and be a part of the board of trustees for the school. So that in and of itself was really incredible to be able to be a part of that. And the trustees and all the people on the board were incredible. But the connections I was able to make through that was really fantastic, and was a very, just such a great opportunity that Denison was able to give to me as a recent alum and as a young person going into the workplace for the very first time. To be able to have that kind of opportunity to meet some of these people who are on the board was incredible. So that was something that was very cool that came out of Denison, but certainly the community is something that has stuck well beyond graduation.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all said amazing points that I totally agree with. I feel like something I never really thought about was how scary it is to move to a new city. Boston's completely new to me. I have no family here. And so I was definitely apprehensive when the move came about. But in my first week here, I saw 2 of my best friends. I think you could name any major city in the United States, and I could tell you a friend of mine from Denison that I know there. So Denison, despite being such a tiny school, it seems like, is everywhere, literally everywhere. The 7 degrees of separation doesn't exist. You know somebody everywhere. It's insane. And to echo Brendan's point about seeing a sticker on the main street of Boston, I saw a Denison sticker, and then I went to a picnic and I met one of Olivia's friends who went to Denison, who was a roommate of my classmate. So, there's like everywhere there's Denison. And with the medical school process, I've already had a couple FaceTimes with some current students just to help them navigate it. And I think that that's just echoes with all alumni wanting to help out Denisonians in any way possible. And I'm just so excited to see a Denison student come to Boston and come have an interview, and me being able to, show them the ropes and show them how it is. So yes, the community is strong.
Wonderful. Thank you. I do think that just about everybody does have their own stories about seeing like a Denison sign or a Denison hoodie or something in the wild and bonding over that shared moment. So that I really do think that is something that sort of distinguishes us from some of our peers. But I do want to take about the last 15 minutes or so. We said that we would spend some time addressing some questions from the audience. So again, if you do have anything that you want to ask, feel free to just pop it in the Q&A. But we can get started with the first question we have here, which is, does campus feel a little smaller during your senior year? which is an interesting question, but I'd love to hear your answers to that.
I'll take it. I think no. And I was actually discussing this with my friend from Denison and also just last week, like reflecting on my senior year, that, for example, Mackenzie and I were hired to do the same internship the same year, had not met each other on campus all 4 years, and knew each other through Olivia. Like, and I've known Olivia all 4 years. So like, and, you know, and worked with Olivia and had classes with her, you know, so it's just kind of interesting how you can have a campus that is really expansive. So if you think about just how large Denison is, I think that helps you to feel like you actually have like these kind of like mini villages across campus that you'll get to participate and live in over the 4 years. And with that, your community kind of flows too. So I don't think, well, I'll speak for myself and others can chime in, but I found that there were still people I hadn't met, and that was, I felt exciting to me too, to meet them even in Seattle later on after graduating.
I completely agree with Haley. I think there's always new people you've never met. I think I had known Brendan, but we really became close friends by senior year, and really like spent most of our time together senior year. And I think the bonus side is I just adored my senior year because you were just doing like one last hurrah with your little community. And I think like the relationships just grow that much stronger when everyone's gearing up to leave and start the next chapter. So it didn't feel small to me at all.
Great. So the next question that we have, I'm going to direct this one specifically to Brendan. This person is wondering if you could comment a little bit more on what it's actually like to be a student athlete at Denison.
Yeah, of course. So those of you who may have joined on late, yeah, I played 4 years on the varsity football team. And it's just, we ended up winning 2 conference championships during my 4 years there, which was incredible, and a great experience. I should have worn my rings. We got these big fat rings that I like to talk about every once in a while. But no, from a student athlete's perspective, I think, you know, it's one of the most cherishing things that I've ever done. And also one maybe of the most difficult things, right? And it comes down to time management, right? Because the professors expect you to excel in the classroom, right? And the coaches expect you to excel on the field. And so I think there's always a balance between finding what's going to be best for you, right, and your well-being, and also trying to live up to kind of those standards that, you know, the professors have kind of set for you, and also that the coaches have set for you too. But I think that's also a great thing, right? Because you're going to get professors and coaching staffs that are going to push you to succeed on and off the field. And I think, you know, you can use it as ever you want, but I use kind of my 4 years as an athlete to get away from the academic side and get away from the extracurricular side, right? And just gonna go and have fun, right? And for those, you know, who are playing competitive athletics, you know, there's going to be times where it's not as fun as it is, you know, when you're playing game, and practice can sometimes get a little grueling. But the benefit of that, right, and I go back to the communities that I was able to engage with students and peers and teammates from all over the place, right? If you look at rosters at Denison, they are not just from 2 to 3 states that are bordering Ohio. I mean, you're going to have kids, like I said before, from California, Texas, Florida, Louisiana. We have a kid on the baseball team from Alabama that I know, right? So that, you know, within itself, with all the wins, right, that we had on the field, some of my best friends, we differed on so many different opinions, right? And they're, you know, we became best friends through athletics, through football, but we grew so much from one another because we were able to learn from our different backgrounds, our different upbringings, our different viewpoints, right? And those are celebrated as a team, right? Because at the same time, we're all part of the same community. So I will say it is challenging, but once you are able to manage and prioritize your time very well, it becomes even more fun because you can start to really kind of have those 2 main things that you're involved in, and also obviously get into other things like I did. You know, I'd get a couple jobs, do some other extracurriculars. But you know, if you have any more questions, obviously feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Brendan, you actually kind of mentioned another question that was in the chat about the number of students, coming from outside of Ohio to Denison, and just the percentage of students who are coming from outside of Ohio. And just briefly, I would mention in response to that question that only 15% of our students are from the state of Ohio, and actually 19% of our students are international. So people really are coming from everywhere. Maggie, coming from Canada, California is our third most represented state. We have lots of students coming from the northeast. So it really is a big mix on campus of who's represented. There's another question. Oh, Kelsey, if you have anything to add, feel free.
Could I just answer the second part of that question?
Yeah, of course, please.
It asked, I think Emma asked, if Denison has Greek life, do those who don't participate in it feel left out? I was not in a sorority. I did not feel left out at all. I always felt like there was something to do, something I could go to. I never felt like there was like a part of campus or campus life that I wasn't invited to or couldn't be involved in. Even the events that are run through the sororities are open to campus, right? Yeah. And they are non-residential. So those who are involved in sororities or fraternities don't live together in houses. So everyone's more kind of together, living together. So I really never felt like there was a separation or division based on sororities or fraternities at Denison.
So you all highlighted great things about your Denison experience, but people are curious to know, what would you have changed? What was something that could have made the experience even better?
I think one thing is I wish I had taken advantage of like the speakers and the performances and things like that more often, because I feel like sometimes you can think of it as a chore when you already have homework and you have your extracurriculars and you want to hang out with your friends, but they are truly amazing speakers and amazing performers. So I wish I had taken more advantage of it.
I absolutely agree with Maggie. I think that's what I would change too. I wish I could go back and go to all, more of the music performances and the theater shows and all of the amazing things that are happening every weekend.
I think mine, that, call it a complaint as you want, is I think Denison has so many opportunities, right, that are provided by the different organizations and the different clubs that are involved in Denison. But I also think that Denison could do just a little bit more like truly campus-wide events that are open, and everyone's open to go to every single event. But these ones I'm talking about, like, we have, and I always forget the name of it, but we always have like a big concert.
D-Day.
D-Day, thank you, D-Day. But D-Day is like one of my favorite days because, they bring in a couple different artists, and it's the whole campus just getting involved, getting engaged, going to, this concert down in Mitchell. And to me, that's just so much fun. And they do kind of sprinkle in some truly, Denison wide opportunities, but I think that they could throw in a couple bit more, whether it's, a big, huge trivia night or a massive Denison karaoke night, right? That's organized by the university. I think that would just be the one thing that I change, because they offer so many different kind of opportunities for you to go and participate in this club's thing or this club's thing. I think really expanding the Denison wide involvement, right, would be even better.
Just to clarify on the question, are we answering what would make our personal Denison experience better, or what we think could make the overall experience better?
It could be either. So Haley, if you feel like you have an answer to what could make the overall experience better.
Yeah, I think this is something that was already like in progress when I was a student, but I think just having larger conversations around social and political climate as we are, currently experiencing in all arenas of our lives, personal, professional, and academic. And I think I graduated in my senior communication class. To my senior communication seminar, like prior to graduation, was media and the presidency. And my final paper was relevant to that year's election. And so, that was tremendously profound to take such a like timely class with like this global community of learners, including myself, with like the guidance of our professor, and just having a space to facilitate and like speak on and learn about topics that were both happening in the world around us and on our own campus. And so I think I, as a student, wanted to continue to see those kinds of conversations be facilitated, both in the classroom and also in social spaces. And I started to see that happening through like community town hall discussions and other like events where we could kind of join and talk about big topics that were necessary for, you know, a community of college students to be discussing. So I think my answer is like already happening. So it's exciting for me as an alumna to hear about what progress is happening now.
Awesome. So we have time for just a couple more questions. I want to really quickly tackle one that got thrown out about how easy it is to get involved in music and theater, since this was one of the things that I was really involved in when I was a Denison student. And frankly, that is one of the things that really attracted me to Denison back when I was a prospective student. I knew that I wanted to get involved in theater, but at the time I didn't think I wanted to major in theater. I just wanted it to be an extracurricular. And I think Denison, more than anywhere else that I've visited, really felt like the place where I would be encouraged to do that. And I really got the sense that the theater community at Denison not only encouraged non-majors to get involved, but it really depended on non-majors to get involved. And because I had that experience and that encouragement to try things out, I did ultimately end up switching my major over to theater, but it was just because I had that push in the first place. And I think now we do have a brand new performing arts center. I think that students interested in the performing arts are going to find a really great home at Denison right now. I think it's a really exciting place to be. But I also wanted to address another question in here, and I'm going to pose this one to Maggie, actually. Could you discuss briefly the opportunities for undergraduate research on campus?
Yeah, I think it is so easy to get involved in research. I knew going or trying to get into medical school that was definitely something to have on my resume. And so this isn't exclusively to the science program, so I'm not sure if the person posing the question is interested in science, but this applies to all majors. But there is a funded program over the summer, the Anderson Scholarship Fund, and that'll pay for a stipend for you to stay on campus over the summer and do 10 weeks of research. You either have to find a professor to sponsor you and join their research project, or create your entire own research question and have a professor sort of just be your mentor. As all of us have echoed many times throughout this panel, the faculty at Denison are so willing to help out. So I had no trouble finding a professor that took me on as a researcher. So I think it's a really great opportunity to get more involved academically. And it's also just a great summer opportunity to make some money, to spend some more time in Granville, and really just pursue an interest you have.
Thanks, Maggie. Nick and I really want to be mindful of both our panelists' time as well as our attendees' time. So we are going to wrap it up with one last question. But first of all, thank you again to everyone who both participated and attended. We really appreciate your time. We hope to see many of you on campus. We hope to see our alums on campus again soon. But it was nice to see all of your faces. We certainly miss you around the hill. But I am curious if you can answer the question of what was your #1 best part of your college experience. Good luck.
I think hands down for me, it's just the people and the friendships I've made. I've realized since being an alum of 6 months, seeing Denison people, it gives me the warm and fuzzies, and it's so cheesy, but like I just get so much joy being around a Denison human being. Like you just feel nostalgic, you feel like you have common, memories. So I just have some amazing friends and amazing mentors that I've kept.
Yeah, I think again, what Maggie said kind of hits home, in that going back to what Haley said, I think I was able to wean in a little bit more constructive fun into my time at Denison, amidst all the craziness. But it's funny. I just remember goofing off with my roommate senior year in our apartment, and we invented a game called Ping Pan. And what we were doing was, and this will get to my point, but we took pans that we had in our cabinets and we took a ping pong ball, and the goal was to try to keep the ping pong ball up for as long as we possibly could. Right. And so I think those those memories are priceless, right? Where it's just you, your friends on I think it was a Tuesday night, everyone's done their work, like, let's just have fun, hang out, and maybe do something stupid like invent a game like Ping Pan, right? Or for us, going and exploring Columbus, or even going and walking down to the farmers market in Granville, right? It's really hard to pinpoint, the number one thing about it, but again, what Maggie said, it's the people and the stuff that you do with them during your 4 years that really makes a difference.
I would absolutely echo that. I would also say one of my favorite memories was leading my first successful program. So going through all of the setup to, advertise it and put up the posters everywhere and try to get people to come. We had free pizza, and then
Free pizza.
worrying that nobody would come to this program. But then, getting there and I think we had like 50 people show up to this, and it was like the best feeling. It went really well. So that was a really exciting moment, and something that I still remember.
Okay, Kelsey, I had to just say, because I also had the feeling of starting an event where I was doing the exact same thing and you participated in that, which was Story Slam. I always felt like pizza, but then also knowing that people came because they really wanted to, and they were super proud of you, and they were like super excited that you were excited, and they're just like, well, we might not even know, but I'm going to be there, and it's going to be like, woo, go team. And like, I think that's the best thing about Denison is just like the people. And I know everyone has already said that, but my favorite people in the world are from Denison. Like, legit, Denison has brought me to Seattle. It's helped me literally travel the world to like meet new people who have challenged me, who have mentored me, who continue to mentor me. I talk to my Denison mentor every month, every single month. Like, that is what I expected going in. Like, that is why I went there. And Denison has like literally delivered. And then also just like my best friends. And like, that's something I could have never really even asked for, but it's like Ping, the best. Ping Pan, it's the best. So
all roads ultimately lead back to Ping Pan at the end of the day. So we're going to be mindful of everyone's time, like we said. So we will wrap it up here. But thank you all again so much for taking the time to meet with us tonight. Thank you so much to our panelists for taking the time out of their night to meet with us. And I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy. And we hope to see you all on campus very soon. Thank you so much. Take care.